Department of Political Science at UC Santa Barbara. As you see, he's going to be speaking on finance and security in East Asia. Please join me in welcoming Professor Cohen.
Is this working? Yes, it is. Okay, let's hope it doesn't have a problem. So, first of all, I want to express my gratitude for the invitation to come back to Claremont to speak again. I emphasize the word come back, which means that it couldn't have been too bad when I was here previously. And it's nice to see some familiar faces scattered around the room. I was just told before we started that someone asked, you know, my full name is Benjamin Jerry Cohen. And I was asked if I could say what the next Ben & Jerry's ice cream flavor is. Regrettably, I can't do that because I'm neither Ben nor Jerry of Ben & Jerry's ice cream, but I do want to point out that my sister's name is, believe it or not, Sarah Lee. I want to talk today about the subject of finance and security in East Asia. Now, as you well know, the subject of financial regionalism, or regional financial and monetary cooperation, has been on the agenda in East Asia now at least since the time of the crisis in 1997, 1998. Prior to that, people had discussed it in the academic literature, but governments didn't seem to take the issue very seriously until the crisis of 97, 98. Since that time, we know that there have been a variety of efforts by governments in the region, as well as a mushrooming of academic and policy literature talking about financial or monetary regionalism in East Asia. What I want to address, what I address in this paper, which is available, I believe, what I address in this paper and what I want to talk about today is the relationship between regional finance, this movement toward regional cooperation on issues of finance or money, the relationship between that and security issues in East Asia. To practice truth in advertising, I will mention that this is part of a broader collective project which will eventually result in an edited volume on economics and security in East Asia, with my assignment being to address specifically the money and financial aspect. The basic answer posed in the question, but of course, like all academics, I spend a lot of time spelling out the reasons for my answer. The basic answer is that the relationship is mutually endogenous. On the one hand, I would argue strongly that efforts at financial cooperation in East Asia are handicapped by some severe underlying security tensions. Basically, the political will is not there, and I'll explain what I mean by that. But on the other hand, and I am, of course, even though I teach in the political science department now, my PhD is in economics, and so, of course, I can use both hands. Harry Truman would never have hired me. But on the other hand, my argument goes on that financial cooperation, once a certain level of cooperation is attained, can in time contribute to an easing of security tensions, and that in turn can lead to further movements in the direction of financial cooperation. A process that can be described as one of punctuated equilibrium, to borrow the term from Stephen Jay Gould and fellow paleontologists, or as Tom Willett just pointed out to me, an example of nonlinearity. My argument is that a virtuous circle can be created where financial cooperation at a certain level can lead to an easing of security tensions, which in time can lead to further improvements of financial cooperation. That's the argument in a nutshell. And what I'd like to try to do is to now spell the argument out in a little more detail. First, what has been done up until now? Most of you probably are familiar with what's happened in the area. There has been a great deal of talk about a variety of movements under various headings. The management of currency is the area in which there has been the least progress. There has been all kinds of discussion about the possibility of a common currency in East Asia, the possibility of an Asian currency unit, the possibility of pegging to a common basket, but none of this has come to fruition. None of this has moved forward. On the other hand, there have been some movements in the bond markets, the so-called Asian Bond Market Initiative and the Asian Bond Fund, both of which were instituted after the 97-98 crisis in the early 2000s. But the most significant movement has been in the area of liquidity assistance. That is to say, in the area of, if you will, mutual insurance against balance payments difficulties. Through what has been called the Chiang Mai Initiative, and its now new form, the multilateralization of CMI, or what has come to be known as CMIM, for Chiang Mai Initiative Multilateralization, which just went into effect last month. The final details, or some of the final details, were worked out last December. I'll get into that. And it was operationalized in March. Now, I'm going to concentrate on the CMI. Much of what I have to say, I think, applies equally to the areas of currency management and the bond markets, but I'll concentrate on CMI and its successor, CMIM. My overall evaluation, as you can see here, is that these initiatives, though they have received a great deal of attention, people have written a great deal about them, governments have pointed with pride to their accomplishments, that in actual practice, the achievements of CMI and CMIM are modest at best. A simple marker of that is the fact that CMI, which was started as early as the year 2000 and is supposed to provide for mutual swap arrangements that can be tapped in the event of a balance of payments problem, it's never been used. Never. Once. Never been used. Suggesting that while there is a certain amount of symbolic importance attached to this initiative, in actual practice it hasn't meant very much. And the basic question is why? Now, one can talk about the economics or the politics. It's obvious on the economic side that there are real impediments to closer financial ties, to closer monetary cooperation. This is, after all, a very heterogeneous group of countries. Countries as large as China and as small as Singapore or Brunei, as advanced as Japan or Korea, or as, to borrow an old term, underdeveloped, as Myanmar, Laos, Cambodia. Some are agricultural, some are industrial, some are very advanced industrial, some are service economies. The point is that they are very heterogeneous. They're very diverse in all kinds of, by all kinds of criteria. the financial ties between them, or I should